Hello everyone, this is Numan Khan from the Department of Electrical Engineering PAS, and today I am going to present our work on a novel line frequency chopper-based rectifier with input filter for enhanced power quality. Before starting, here is an overview of the content that I will be covering in my presentation. Firstly, the background of the problem, then the working of the proposed topology, its simulation and hardware results, which will be then followed by an discussion on input filters and the simulation results. And lastly, we will then present the conclusion of the work being done in this particular paper. Regarding the background, this work has emerged from the indigenous design and development of a 400 ampere, 150 volt uh, power supply for the plasma torch. Plasma torch is basically a device that can be used for the gasification, cutting of different materials, and reshaping of the complex geometries of the metals, and for the waste treatment. Moreover, it can be very beneficial in the waste treatment of medical waste that otherwise cannot be done through the conventional means. The requirements of the power supply are that it must be capable of providing 400 ampere current, and the terminal voltage must be 150 volt. The THD should be less than 10% at the input side, and the ripple at output must be less than 5%. So for such high currents, we have gone through the existing literature, and the rectifier topologies can be broadly categorized into two categories, the passive rectifiers and the active rectifiers. In passive rectifiers, such as shown over here, we have single phase, 6 pulse, and 12 pulse rectifiers, and so on. And at the bottom of this table, we can see that there are some active rectifiers. We have evaluated these in simulations such that we have considered a huge DC link choke at the output so that the ripple is minimal, and then calculated the THDs uh, and that are listed in this particular table. If you see, you will realize that the THD of the passive rectifiers are quite high as compared to the active rectifiers. So one must think that they should consider the active rectifiers. But the major issue is that at such high currents and 400 ampere in our case, uh, uh, we cannot deal with such high dynamic power losses. So these switching losses will be very dominant at higher frequencies and with such high current. Therefore, we are forced to stick with the classical rectifiers, but their THDs are quite high. So in this shape, they cannot be used. Therefore, in order to reduce the THD, we have proposed another rectifier topology where we have a bridge rectifier at the input, and then which is then followed by a chopper. So the switching angle of the chopper can be controlled, and using the switching angle, we can control the THD of our input current. And in the circuit diagram, there are some filters LC, and the D5 diode is used for the as a freewheeling diode. So the THD the THD has been evaluated at different switching angles for both the single phase configuration and three phase configuration. So the THDs that are determined through the simulation are plotted uh, in this figure. One is THD with triplen, and the other one is THD without triplen harmonics. These are to show that in the three phase system, uh, when the triplen harmonics, they will be trapped on one end. So what will be the impact on the other end? So with triplen harmonics, you can see with their inclusion in the system, the THD is 28.9%, and the switching angle is 134 degree. And if we ignore the tripling harmonics that will be inherently rejected in a three-phase balance system, the THD will be approximately 16% at a switching angle of 149 degrees. So we have reduced our THD from 48% of a single phase diode rectifier to a 16%, and which is even better than the six pulse rectifier, and very close to the performance of the 12 pulse rectifier. And additionally, it will not be requiring any phase shifting transformer. So these are some of the benefits of our proposed topology. Here is the out source current with the filter at output. The three-step output is shown circuit for the circuit, single phase circuit, and below is the FFT spectrum of the source current. The THD from the circuit simulation is slightly higher as compared to the analytical results. This is because the switching angles could not be exactly generated of that 149 degree in the simulation circuit, and there are some approximation errors. That's why the THD has slightly increased. The first 50 harmonics are plotted in this, and you can see that the third harmonic is the most dominant one. And in the three-phase system, when it will be rejected, the THD will be considerably reduced. Here is the three-phase circuit diagram and the currents on the primary and the secondary side of the transformer. On the primary side of the transformer, as shown in the part B of this figure, is that the number of steps on the primary side have increased. So their THD, they have a better sinusoidal approximation, and the switching angles are such that they will correspond to the minimal THD. Their FFT spectrums are then plotted below, and it can be seen that the THDs are 31% and 17% respectively on the secondary side and the primary side. And as we expected that uh, in case of a three-phase rectifier, the tripling harmonic will be rejected on the primary side. The same thing has happened over here, that the third harmonic is rejected from the system, and hence the THD is considerably reduced from 31% to 17%. Here is the prototype of our developed for our proposed rectifier. We have used an inductive choke, a capacitor as an output LC filter, and the board shows the different uh, switches and the rectifiers. And as a load, we have used the heating load. And the outputs are then plotted again across this load. Here is the output of the single phase of our proposed rectifier and hardware. The harmonic spectra is similar to that we obtained through the simulation results. Here you can see that the third harmonic is dominant, and then we have other higher order harmonics. Uh, the three-phase implementation is also being done, and you can see that in the previous case that third harmonic and the other higher triple N harmonics were dominant, that are now completely eliminated in this case. So therefore, the THD of our in our three-phase system is considerably reduced. One is the line current, and the second figure, part B, shows the harmonic spectra. So the THD practically has been now reduced from 28% to 16%. These are the practical results that are close to our analytical results and the simulation result as well. Then recall that we had previously discussed that the THD of the system must be less than the 10%, whereas the input current gauge is still 16%. Therefore, we need to apply an input filter that will further reduce the THD. And in addition to that, there are also limitations imposed by the IEEE 519 standard to reduce these THDs. Therefore, we have developed an input LC filter for our prototype. Uh, so the two major categories of the input filters are active filters and passive filters. Active filters use different switching devices. The major disadvantage that they have higher cost, the circuit complexity is more, the aging effect is more prominent in these type of rectifiers. The maintenance cost is high, but most importantly, at such high current, when we previously rejected the rectifier, active rectifier, the reason was still the same, that at such high currents, the uh, power dissipation will be a problem. So the same thing is considered over here, and we are not considering active rectifiers. Therefore, passive rectifiers are considered in this case. They do not have the above mentioned problems that the active rectifiers had, but the stability and their performance in dynamic loading conditions is a bit concerned. For designing an input filter, here are these three important factors that we have considered. The cutoff frequency of the filter must be far away from the line frequency to avoid resonance, which is 50 hertz in our case. The input current must be negligible in no load condition so that the power dissipation may be low, and the power factor should be as high as possible. And in addition to that, the phase angle between the input current and voltage must be close to zero, so that the displacement factor is also good. So considering with LC filters have been used to reduce the THD in input current for quite a long time. But the issue with LCL filter or LC filter is that they introduce a lagging power factor in our system. But we have an additional benefit in our proposed rectifier, that we can make our system to operate at a leading power factor, so that the inherent lagging power factor from this LC filter at the input will be compensated. So in this manner, we are quite comfortable with the choice of the LC filter. The behavior of LC filter is, however, dependent on the transfer function, the quality factor, that basically how do we select the L and C, the damping ratio, and then we need to analyze it at different frequencies and select a particular combination of LC that is well optimized for all these cases. These are the transfer functions, quality factor, and some other basic information of design equations for to be considered for the design of input LC filter. So, with regard to this, it is not possible to design a filter through calculation for all kind of loading conditions, because there are several non-linearities involved in our system due to the involvement of the switches and the diodes. And furthermore, in order to find a optimal operating point or the value of L and C, huge amount of data is required, different combinations of L and C at different frequencies, and then at a particular frequency, the different combinations of L and C need to be considered in order to realize that which one will be the best solution. So we have gone through this rigorous process and generated such data in order, and then analyze the results, and then ultimately finalized one of the LC values. This figure represents the our rectifier with an input LC filter. You can see that now in addition to the output filter, we have also introduced an input LC filter. So as previously said that with the uh, different combinations of L and C, we have generated uh, different responses of our filter, uh, and by varying the quality factor and by uh, first thing is that we are varying the frequency of our system. One variation is that, but let's say we have selected that we will consider cutoff frequency to be 40 hertz. Then at 40 hertz, we can have multiple L and C combinations. So at a fixed frequency, now we are varying our uh, C capacitance and L and their combinations, and we are we are recording the voltages at the output, the the currents, the no load voltages, currents, and the THDs at different values of L and C. So they are plotted over here, and similarly, this practice has been done for has been repeated for 50, 60, 70, and so on. So these are the results from those. Here, this table will give you a better idea of the summary of the results or the conclusions that we get from those simulation results. Are that at 70 hertz, the frequency, the cutoff, if the filter is designed at 70 hertz, then the THD is approximately 7%. Power factor is very high. Displacement factor is good. The peak voltages are also in the moderate range. And most importantly, the no load current is very low. Therefore, we are going with this choice if we consider the 40 hertz. At 40 hertz, the THD is even much lower, but there are the power factor is poor, the no load current is high. Similarly, if we go to 60 hertz, the THD is 3%, considerably below than the 10% limit that imposed by the supplier, or as per IEEE standards, less than 8%. But the no load current is very high. Therefore, we have considered the design at 70 hertz, and different from the plots presented previously. We have determined the optimal values of L and C. That turns out to be 3.86 millihenry and 1341 microfarad. So these are the values of the of our input LC filter that will ensure good performance overall as compared to other values and frequencies. Here is after the application of the LC filter, here are the input voltage and the current shown. They are both sinusoidal. They are very close in phase with each other. And below is shown the THD of the input current, that is 7%. So this was the best possible solution among the different available options. So we stick with that. And then some studies are done with load variations, and we see that the shape remains sinusoidal and the displacement factor is also not that much variable when we tried it with the other combinations. So not only LC was studies, not only with LC was done, but with CLC was also done. And through the same process, here is the circuit diagram of the of our proposed rectifier with CLC filter. The same studies were done, and different combinations were tried, different cutoff frequencies were considered for our filter, and the THDs were even better in such as at one particular combination, the THD even reduced to below 2%. And however, the biggest problem in the CLC was that at no load, uh, no load condition, the current was very high. That reduced the overall power factor of our system, and which was not as good as that of LC. So we have compromised a little bit on the THD, but the other benefits are that the power factor is also good, the displacement factor is also good. So that's why we went with LC filter instead of CLC. So this statement cannot be considered as universally true, but in this our particular case where we are dealing with such heavy loads, here we have considered that LC is working better as compared to CLC or the LCL. And the only problem with the LC apparently was the lagging power factor. That has been corrected by making this by adjusting the switching angle such that we can operate it at a leading power factor. So lastly, here are the conclusions of our work. We have successfully demonstrated the validity of our idea by hardware implementation of our proposed rectifier topology. The THDs have been considerably reduced just by using this novel rectifier topology. That is approximately 16% and 28% on the primary and secondary side in a three-phase network. So it is a good, it provided a good solution in this manner that THDs were inherently low, so that the LC filter design, their component values were also then in low, and their design was relatively simple if we were to go with another rectifier choice. So LC filter has been also proposed, and through those calculations, we have now reduced the THD below 10%, 7% exactly in that case, and power factor is also greater than 0.9. So the objectives of our of that we had set have been achieved. Thank you very much for taking time to listening to my to our work. Your valuable feedback is highly regarded. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach me at this email address. Thank you very much.